and welcome to Miss Regan's book review. Today I will be reviewing The Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. So this is actually the first book in the Infernal Devices series, and after reading this I will definitely be going back for more. I loved every single second of it. It has an action-packed plot, it's a fantasy novel, so it's got werewolves and vampires and angels and demons and everything in between, and it has a love triangle. And it's set in Victorian London, which I absolutely adored every second of it. It really hits all those boxes of what people are looking for in a YA novel, for sure. So a little bit about the book. It follows Tessa Gray, who is moving from New York City to meet her brother in London. But when she arrives in London, she can't find her brother anywhere. Instead, there are two older women who pick her up, who she calls the Dark Sisters, and they end up kidnapping her and holding her hostage in an old Victorian home and forcing her to shapeshift, which is something she didn't even know she had the power to do. And so she thinks all hope is lost and that she's captured here forever and she'll die there, until one day a boy named Will Herondale, who is a shadow hunter, he breaks in and rescues her. So Will Herondale, a shadow hunter, basically what that means is he's a cross between an angel and a human, and he has these great big powers, and he can come in and do things that normal humans shouldn't be able to do. And so he rescues her and brings her back to his headquarters, which is called the London Institute. It's an old, what looks like an old rundown church, but on the inside it's beautiful and immaculate and absolute perfection. So he introduces Tessa to all of the other shadow hunters, and she tells them about her issue, that she was kidnapped by these two random women and she doesn't really know what's going on. She just knows that she needs to find her brother as soon as possible. So in the course of trying to find her brother, Tessa teams up with the shadow hunters and actually ends up kind of falling for two of them, Will and his best friend Jem, at the same time. So as they're trying to search for her brother, they end up coming into fights with vampires, werewolves, warlocks, and finally at a vampire party they find Nate, and they bring him back to the Institute, and he tells them that there's this evil magister who is trying to take down the shadow hunter race with his demons in the form of clockwork automatons, which are basically just a bunch of robots running around, but they've got demons inside of them, so very dangerous. And the whole plot line comes to a head when the magister attacks the Institute, and Tessa actually ends up stabbing herself and sacrificing herself to the magister, but at the last second she saves the day, and she ends up using her power to shapeshift so that she can heal herself. So the magister thinks, oh, she's dead, and he runs away with his clockwork people, and it appears that the day has been saved, at least for now, and Cassandra Clare kind of leaves us on this note of, oh, what's gonna happen next? It's kind of like a little cliffhanger where everything seems peaceful for now, but you know that in the next book something big is going to happen because the war has only just started. So the audience that this novel probably caters to is definitely 13 and up. It's got violence and romance and all of those great young adult themes. I think both boys and girls would definitely enjoy this novel, but because it is a female protagonist, it probably caters more towards a female audience. But it's got action and romance at the same time, so it definitely, both genders would thoroughly enjoy it. And I would probably recommend this book to a girl in my class, maybe a freshman or a sophomore, who has a penchant for period novels. So if they were into Jane Austen or Charles Dickens or someone like that, they would definitely enjoy this book. Or if they were looking to get into that kind of book, I would definitely recommend this book to them. So why students should read it? I think this is a great book that would kind of glide right into teaching the heavier text like Dickens and Austen, because it still has elements that really engage the readers, like the action-packed sequences with the vampires and the warlocks and the magic and the unknowns. While some of Jane Austen's novels or Charles Dickens novels, it's kind of more just like, oh, this is what society looked like at this time. And it's not as gripping for a teenager who's used to reading books about werewolves and vampires and all of that kind of thing. So I think it definitely introduces the Victorian setting, and it would be a great way to get students engaged with that time period for sure. And it's a great fast-paced book that would really kind of jumpstart a love for reading, especially because it is a series. I think it would just get students really engaged in a book and they would just fall in love with the characters and that kind of thing. I know it did that for me while I was reading it. I couldn't put it down. So I think students who are just looking for a novel to really get them started in reading, this would be a great one because it's so gripping and keeps you engaged the whole time.